Absolutely.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, I assume talking about it with other. Were you? Because some of the guys that I've talked with who are from older, I don't want to say older generations per se, but I guess that's what they are. They say just go to therapy or just talk about it with people. Just get it off your chest. You don't need to, whatever it be, that you're dealing with. If it's something suicidal or just whatever traumatic stuff you went through. So, baseline therapy. Do you recommend that? Do you think it's good, or was that something you went through, or
I think it's a start. I think it's a start. I don't think it's wrong.
who was called?
Absolutely. See, this is why the host of the show should put his camera on Do Not Disturb.
Yeah,
However, he's the host.
yeah.
What a lifesaver. I was breaking my heart down to you, and you got interrupted by a phone call.
Well, look, God sends angels, but he never said the angels would be competent at what they do. He never said the angels would get the gun up on time, guys. All right, look, I'm trying my hardest.
That could also be the devil trying to interfere. Did you answer it? No, you silenced it.
Holy crap, I did not think about that. Spiritual warfare, guys. This is actually, you know what? That was probably Iran right now, because right now with the war going on, they recognize what we're doing. We're trying to save people's lives. We're trying to better the United States, and they're waging psychological warfare.
Absolutely.
With, terrible way to make a joke with that one. But what exactly were because from what it sounds like, maybe I assume was probably a troubled childhood or just maybe a lost childhood. You go through the Marines.
I was going to
Were
say,
you
wait.
gonna say
Yeah, because I want to answer your question, the previous one.
Oh, go back to it, please.
Because you were asking me about therapy. Do I think that's a great, necessarily? Yeah. So I believe that therapy is not a one-size-fits-all, right? So talk therapy is a modality. Equine therapy, where you're with horses. Art is therapeutic. If you just sit down and draw or color or make something, all the way up to plant ceremonies and medicine. Like ayahuasca changed me. Psychedelic assisted therapy saved me this past Veterans Day.
Okay.
So, yes, please start talking. Please, whether you're sharing with yourself, you're journaling, you're just video documenting it, you don't have to share it with anybody else. Get it out of here. Put it on the paper, put it on digital. Just get it out so you can start thinking more clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you're going to take medicine, like for your mental health, I definitely believe you need to be going to therapy or doing something else, because in my mind, taking medicine is just like putting Neosporin on a wound. You still need a Band-Aid. You still need to keep it clean and safe and protected.
Yeah.
So you can't have one without the other.
It's like habits, it needs not intensity, but it just needs some type of constant, attention to it, I guess you would say.
For sure. You can't take one, and medicine's not going to heal you.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to help you. But if you're not doing any work, you're just going to stay in that zone. I was on medication for years through the VA, and I feel like it did nothing but make me worse. I believe it probably kept me alive when it needed to.
Yeah.
But it wasn't helping.
Like it's treating the symptoms, but not the actual branch of whatever it is that's making you feel that way.
Yeah. But you also got to think they're prescribing you multiple medications at a time. How are those all interacting with one another? And what else is it causing to go wrong with me now?
Yes. Yeah, for those who don't know, we're with J-Mac's daughter, by the way. So she's sleeping. That's the reason why I haven't been yelling or getting as intense as much, because I want to make sure she sleeps okay and gets all 8 hours in the middle of the day.
I feel like that was a little shade. All right, but yes,
I didn't mean to throw it like shade. But I'm just saying, if people logically follow this, they're going to be like, wait a minute. So if she's sleeping right now, then are they filming this at like midnight or 3 a.m.?
No, she'll still go to sleep around 7, 8 o'clock at night and sleep pretty well.
Okay.
But this is also a sign to you that don't allow any excuse you have, whether it's kids, work. Well, okay, you obviously got to work to provide things, right?
Yes.
But just because you have kids doesn't mean you can't do things. I'm out here preaching, and I have my 2-year-old.
So, how, like, because you said when you started getting into veteran, into, I want to get the words right here because I know they can get jumbled. Suicide prevention or veteran suicide awareness. Like, are those the right terms? Would you say?
Can you finish your question so I can answer it?
I'm trying. So, at what point did you get involved in that after you got out in 2017?
2020. So I got tagged, and I had my dirt bike accident was in like 2017, 2018. I didn't do my therapy my physical therapy properly, and it just was a lot of pain.
Yeah.
I didn't do a push-up since before that, and I got tagged in that 22 a day push-up challenge. Like, do 22 push-ups a day for 22 days, tagging someone new each day to raise awareness for veteran suicide.
Okay.
It was eating me alive that I couldn't do that, because I felt internally that I could do something. I could help out our community. Like, I could help raise awareness.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, my buddy posted a meme saying, "Stop doing the push-ups, pick up the phone and call your buddy." And I was like, oh, shoot, light bulb, boom. And then I was talking to my therapist. I was in therapy at the time, and I told her I had this idea. She tried to trick me to go live in her office, telling my friends and family, like, this is what I was going to start. I was just like, nah, you're the crazy one. Let's switch chairs here. But I went home, created the video, and it's been doing this for the past 5 years now.
Okay. Do you because obviously that's one of the biggest things that we hear is actually check up on your buddies. We hear this all the time. Unfortunately, especially after we hear of someone who has taken their own life, it's always check up on your guys, because we don't want it to happen again. And the implication is if someone is doing bad, you can get down to it. But I want to ask, for one, do you think that is an effective method, just casually going up and asking people if they're doing okay? And then two, what would you recommend to actually make that effective? Do you know what I mean? To see if someone's doing okay or not. Because I feel like when we say that, obviously we have good intentions, but it's just implied that people are honest, or that we're going to get to the root core. But in your opinion, is it effective?
Not the first time around. The first time around is all that surface level, like, jargon, because you don't know if that person's being genuine or not. And plus, we're in our own heads 90% of the time. So
Correct.
Like, sometimes I don't even want to answer the question, right? But as you started the show, how are you doing? I just straight up went into it and told you, because I know that first time most people are going to lie to you and say good, living the dream, or okay.
Yeah.
But in reality, you have to ask that second time around, because then they'll shift. They're like, oh, he's serious now. He actually wants to know. And it does. You could see their eyes light up, even when they start telling you how bad their day is or what's going wrong,
You
or
see
the
the
negative.
mask come off.
Yeah, you see, like, they're almost relieved, like, dang, someone's really asking me. Now I don't got to sit here with this. So don't just ask how you're doing. Follow up with, like, how are you really doing? And just be willing to listen. And don't try to, this is where I'm struggle.
Okay.
Don't try to correct or fix them. Let them just share it.
Yeah.
And just be appreciative of it. I try to, like, relate to them, where, like, oh, I may not had that experience, but I went through something like this. Or I just tell them, yo, thanks for sharing and thanks for showing up.
Yeah, I've been trying to think of just some stuff to talk about when it comes to the veteran suicide topic, I suppose you would say. But here's another thing. I don't know if this would come across as, I don't want to say controversial. I don't think that's the right word. But do you think that the Marine Corps is doing okay in terms of its ability to treat it, or even just the military as a whole? Because I know you talk more military-wide, but since we're Marines.
No.
Mm-hmm.
But I also don't think that is the military's, that's not the military job, right?
Yeah.
Their job is to train us to be those war fighters, those savages, to go get the mission completed on no matter what the cost is, right?
Yeah.
So no, they're not doing enough, and these death by PowerPoints on suicide awareness is not helping, especially when the culture is to go bash that person when they start to share with you.
Yeah.
So I think one of the best things we can do is to start sharing our stories. And dude, I have to bring up that Wounded Warrior Project storytelling class again. One of the guest participants in there, he said, you sharing your story is giving somebody else the keys to unlock their own prison.
Yeah.
And that is so powerful, because all you got to do is share your story. And if you're like, for me, for instance, when I share my story, I'm like, man, nobody really wants to hear this. Nobody cares.
Mm-hmm.
But then you share it, and like one or two people start popping out of the woodwork and saying, oh, thank you for sharing. Or you see their interest, and you just know it's helping.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, how good does it feel when you get something off of your chest that you've been sitting with for a long time?
Yeah, it's like you can finally take the facade off of, like, I need to bottle this, or like you don't feel that you need to be embarrassed by it or anything like that, or whatever preconceptions you might have of it.
Exactly. You can stop being embarrassed by it, and you can move on and work to what's hurting you next, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everything from how we show up today is not because of how we were triggered yesterday. It's from what we learned or did not learn as a child, our coping mechanisms and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to stop for example, I had to stop blaming my wife for what I thought she did to me yesterday. That was just my trigger. Like, yeah, it made me mad and upset, but what actually caused that trigger?
Yeah.
And it stemmed from our childhood. And this goes into the psychedelics as well. And if you're really curious about it, on Netflix, there's a documentary called In Waves and War. Follows 3 Navy SEALs, DJ Capone, Marcus Shipley, and Maddie, and a couple other veterans trickled in. They go into Mexico and take Ibogaine 5-MeO DMT. It's a different beast, but it's in the psychedelic realm. What I took from it is that they all went in talking about their hundreds of combat deployments, their dead friends, and that's what they were expecting to see and work on. But the medicine brought them all back to their childhood. And my 3rd night in my ceremony with ayahuasca, I talked to little Josh, like the little boy version of me. And I started to tell him, like, you should be so proud of yourself. And I was like, nah, dude, fuck that. You are proud of yourself. You are the reason I'm here right now. I am proud of you. You should be so proud of yourself. You are confident. Just talking that self-love and pride. Everything I preach into my little girl. Will you do it with me? Say, I'm beautiful. No, she's a little shy.
No.
But
have you heard of shadow work or looked into that?
I've heard of it. I haven't been able to successfully do it myself.
Okay, because I've looked into it a lot, and I know.
Sit down, please.
I know. I don't the big internet personality Jordan Peterson. He talks a lot about that, and I've seen that there's a bunch of parallels because they talk about how a lot of the. I don't want to incorrectly word this, but it seems that where it gets right with ayahuasca, where they do agree, is that a lot of the way that we act, the way that we think, our traumas, it's almost all essentially from our childhood, and so. I find that very interesting how like 2 of the most very effective ways of just, healing people mentally in terms of just having to go back in the past and see where things went wrong or where things didn't go right where they should have, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, dude, because if you think about it and you actually take the time to reflect, so maybe it is the shadow work, but the way we are today is from what we learned in our childhood, what our parents taught us. Like, for example, racism. You're not born racist. You become racist over time by the people you're surrounded by. And you could take racism and place it with anything else, whether it be successful, a criminal, and anything in between there, right?
Yeah.
Show me your 5 closest friends, and I'll show you your projection on your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It all comes down to ultimately what you've associated with, who you associate with, things like that.
Yeah. And life is literally perception. Reality is not what any of us see it. We're all viewing it from our own perspective, the lens that we accustom and grew into from childhood. So yeah, absolutely, we got to fix that.
So I suppose this has to be asked, but to get right to the heart of it, when we see people who do take their lives, obviously horrible, and we can agree that one is too many, but why do you think people still take their lives in spite of a lot of these great things that can heal them, that we can do, ways to reach out? Why do you think ultimately people do that from your estimation?
All right. Well, if you want to talk about plant medicine, you're going to have to spend thousands of dollars outside of the eye mission. It's cheaper than that because it's here in Arizona, right?
Yeah.
But the proper tools and resources aren't easily accessible. Like, you have to pay extreme amounts of money, or our culture, dude. We don't show up for each other the ways we want to show up. We don't even love ourselves the way we need to love ourselves most of the time.
Yeah.
I myself, I'm my own worst critic, and it's taken since ayahuasca and now to start loving myself and showing myself more grace and just allowing myself to be human.
Mm-hmm.
But when your boys are, our way of showing love in the military is what? The trash talk, the shit talk, to beat you down while you're already down because we think it's funny, not realizing that person could actually be struggling.
Yeah.
And
like they won't take it that way.
Yeah. And I was guilty of that too. Like I was an asshole. I'm sure I'll still be one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not perfect all the time, but I am trying.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
She's upset because you swore.
It's not the first time she heard it, but hopefully it'll be the last here soon. Okay.
Yeah. We went very deep. I'm glad that we definitely talked about this. It's a serious topic, but I didn't get into any of the photos that you sent me because that's usually what I try to do at some point in the middle of the show.
Up a great answer to a question you've asked me.
Oh,
why
please.
do you think suicide's still an option? What is the #1 coping skill the military taught us?
Oh, to cope? Well, I don't know if they taught us this, but I assume to just bury it and not like most men do.
Alcohol.
Yeah, alcohol.
What has the biggest aisles at the PX, at the gas stations on base? Alcohol.
Yeah.
What causes all of our demons to come out? And when was the last time you heard a group of Marines burn down a bar because they smoked too much weed? Probably never. When was the
Yeah.
last time you heard a group of Marines burn down a bar because they got
Yep.
too drunk?
I'm going to pose this question
10
to
minutes
everybody.
ago.
Would you rather have, look, people say that, oh, I don't want to ban alcohol. That's too insane. Look, would you rather have a world of potheads or alcoholics? And I pose that literally. And I assume, you might have an answer on that, but please continue.
I think there are people that can successfully drink properly.
Mm-hmm.
I was never taught that. And I have the Pringles condition. So once I pop, I don't stop until I wake up with regret, remorse. Who do I owe money to? Where's my car?
I was about to
XYZ.
ask you what the Pringles condition is, but you just flowed that off the tongue so good. I'm like, oh, wow, that is incredible. It makes
Yeah.
sense, too.
Absolutely.
What is the Pringle condition? I want to hear it again. What is the Pringles condition?
It's when I pop and I don't stop until I wake up with regret and remorse, depression. One of the last times that I truly drank,
Yeah.
I was proud of myself. I only drank Bud Light. I didn't mix, didn't take shots, none of that. Went home early, spent time with the girls, laughing, having a great time, spent time with my wife, laughing, had a great time. Woke up depressed, upset, mad, unhappy. I'm
Yeah.
like, what the heck? Like, why am I doing this to myself? And something I heard recently is that if you woke up feeling like you feel on a hangover, you would take yourself to the hospital.
Mhm.
But because it's because you drank last night, it's okay.
Yeah, that's a good analogy that you bring up with it, because, and part of the reason I pose that is 'cause, like with the previous question is because think about everything that gets exacerbated or all the horrible BS that happens in people's lives because they're either alcoholics or because it was alcohol induced. You know what I mean?
Yeah, what makes things worse?
Yes.
You get out of control when you drink. Like, don't get me wrong. I know people that have smoked or taken edibles, and I'm not justifying switch over to smoking, right? I'm justifying healing from what you're going through,
Yeah.
and maybe you will be able to drink responsibly.
Yeah.
I don't have that trait built in.
Mhm.
Yeah, princess. I love you too. Can you say it in the microphone? Okay.
We do endorse family values here at 4 Years a Slave.
Real interesting name title. Bringing my kids here too as well.
How has that affected your mental health, or do you, in terms of that?
It's been beneficial and detrimental, 100%.
Mm.
But I can't answer the truth. Well, I can, right? I don't know if it was detrimental because I wasn't working on myself, so I was still traumatized and hurt and trying to heal. Hold on, let me finish my statement, okay? And I was trying to heal from my childhood traumas or my military experience or my ex-wife and all of those.
Uh-huh.
Or if it was because my wife and I weren't meant for each other at that moment. But
Yeah.
we're still together today, and we're happy, and we're working through it. Dude, relationships are the most work I've ever had in my life.
Mhm.
And the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it. So you have
Yeah.
to choose to fight and put up with the ups and downs. And you also have to see your role and the response that your significant other is showing you. How are you showing up to them that's making them show up that way? Yeah, sometimes. Did I say? I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. Sometimes they are the problem. Most of the time, we are the problem. And we also got to recognize what we allow. And that's not just about our significant others and relationships and children screaming daddy.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to hear it, you got to go sit away. Can you go sit in that chair? Go watch us in that chair. Then I got to turn this off. Did that answer?
Yeah. Plus, I see it helps with negotiation skills a little bit too.
Kind of. Okay.
Yeah, but I see what you mean though, because in a lot of ways, if you have at least some decent ability to self-introspect, it can reveal a lot about you in certain ways. And I think you'll hear this a lot, especially now with nuclear family dynamics, because a lot of people are going no contact with their parents, or they're just not wanting, like they're doing Friendsgivings. I don't know if you've heard of this. Instead of going with their families, they just have a Thanksgiving with their friends. But people say this all the time about their families, like, I can't stand them anymore. It's like, well, if you take the time to look, it's probably because of something you're doing. Like, whatever you don't like about your family, it's probably because of something that you have, like, a personal issue with. So I think it's just I guess to summarize what you said, it's a good tool for self-introspection.
Yeah, I think for example, I feel everybody's energies and I take it on to myself. Like, I wear their energy instead of just allowing them to be the grumpy or miserable or happy or sad ones.
Yeah.
I feel it with them, and then I feel like I get into those moods and mindsets, and that's not what I want to be about.
Yeah, I struggle with that too. It sucks just absorbing the environment around you, even if you know it's not good for you.
Yeah, and that's something I got to continue to work on to be able to let go, right?
Mhm.
But I've also been able to recognize the patterns. Like, I could just sit it was like Christmas, I believe. I just sat back and I like watched everything happen, and it was like I knew I was the next. I knew someone said this. I know what's gonna say now, or like how the cycle is gonna go, and it was really interesting. Like ayahuasca, dude. Like I just keep talking about it because like it genuinely. I say it saved my marriage and restored my life because before it, I felt like I was trying to heal with no light at the end of the tunnel. It was miserable. I was depressed still. It was terrible.
Like doing it on your own, more or less.
I felt like I couldn't do anything but just exist. Like it was bad, bro. I wasn't cleaning at my. I was a stay-at-home parent. I wasn't cleaning. I was barely cooking or getting food and doing the bare minimum to keep the kids alive, as I said.
Yeah.
And when I purged that all out, bro, I was able to. I've been able to have more energy to do things differently. It's still a challenge day to day, but it's an easier challenge.
Yeah. What did because I assume it's not like you just have somebody telling you to do this or this or feel like what did you physically see when you're going through ayahuasca?
So nothing.
There was one question I had with it. Oh, this is actually one I think I have. So when people talk about veteran suicide, usually it's always associated with like the military's at fault for that. The Marine Corps is at fault. It's whatever they dealt with. But one thing I've been thinking about is we see that mental health in general is just terrible across the board, like in the U.S., Canada, UK. Do you think it would help that if the military starts addressing why mental health is terrible across the board or look into that, maybe it would help them figure out how to prevent like their active duty, their veterans to, be better, if that makes sense?
I believe mental health should be taught in boot camp.
Mhm.
From boot camp on. I think mental health should be taught in school.
Yeah.
Like coping mechanisms, breathing techniques. Dude, think of it. Were you ever taught to breathe, or did you just know
never.
how to breathe?
Yeah, it's just expected.
But did you know that like deep breathing is very beneficial for your mental health, and it could pull you out of like spirals and panic attacks and like level you out just by breathing?
It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, dude, it's super beneficial for you.
And not to cut you off, but the reason that I ask all this is because so I think for the Marines, I don't know if this is across the board military, but I think the veteran or the Marine suicide rate is twice the national average, I think, or something like that. But everybody always jumps to the conclusion that it's the Marine Corps' fault or it's the military's fault, that the military is putting way too much on its service members for the suicide problem. But the way I look at it is if regular society that doesn't have all these stressors, you can live a more free or independent life. If the mental health in our normal world is doing abysmal, do we really expect that the military is going to do better than that? Because if that's what we're pulling from, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but we also got to think how fucked up we were to sign up to go chase bullets. So we were messed up before we even...
Yeah.
The trauma we experienced as kids is what led us into the military.
Mm.
So the military just compiles onto that trauma. Just like college compiles onto your trauma, just like you working in the civilian sector compiles onto your trauma.
Yeah.
It's all compounded trauma.
Mm-hmm.
A civilian had to tell me this before it registered in my brain. But
Yeah.
did you know the military trains us to kill, but it doesn't teach us how to become a civilian again, how to reintegrate back?
Oh, I know that very well.
In boot camp, every other word out of our mouth is pretty much kill.
Yeah.
So that's like desensitized, like it's just another word to me. Kill, 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 kill.
My shout out to Yoni Neumann. The way that he put it is like they send us to boot camp and they tell us to yell at a tire tied to a wall and stab it a bunch of times, yelling kill, kill, kill. Like you're not going to be normal when you come back.
Yeah. We weren't normal to begin with is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And then they send us out with like a week-long class of death by PowerPoint or like how to put your name on a resume and maybe change like one or two things on it, but they don't really give us life skills to get out.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be a skill bridge program that is like a transitioning schooling, almost like a halfway house.
Yeah.
So like the last 6 months of your contract or however long skill bridge is good for, instead of going to a job and employment per se, you go to this halfway house where you're learning mental health, you're learning transitioning skills, you're learning different career fields that are out there.
Yeah.
Like why doesn't that exist yet?
Yeah, just something really practical for just a practical life skill, I guess you'd say.
Yeah. And a lot of it is our own selves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the culture in the military, the culture of being men, and the culture in society is that we just need to suck it up. We need to quit hiding, stop being a bitch. We're all going through something. Somebody has it
Mm-hmm.
worse. Stop comparing. Work on your own shit.
Yeah. No, fully agree. There's the suffer in silence mentality. Like, it's useful, but it, sometimes it shouldn't be silent. I guess
Yeah.
would be a way of putting it.
And you know how many veterans say that like they knew something was wrong with them, but due to their career field in the military or just being in the military, that they were too afraid to say anything because they would get yanked away and they would be shunned and looked at and like chastised.
Uh-huh.
And so they chose to continue to show up while deteriorating themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get out. And while we're on active duty, we have group therapy every day, whether you recognize it or not. You're forced to be around like 20, 30 other people that are very similar minded than you. You can joke the same, or we can go out to the woods and handle our business and come
Yeah.
back and have a drink with each other and still be boys, right?
And you know what's funny? And maybe this is probably the solution, but have you looked into or seen a lot of the stuff they're talking about, how the male loneliness epidemic? Have you heard of that, like, topic thrown around?
I felt it. I've never heard of it.
Yeah. Well, I was reading something wacky. I mean, I don't know how true it is, but they say that because there's a lot of men right now, they're not getting married until, I think the average age of marriage is in the early 30s now. A lot of men just don't have friends. So there's pretty much no community that's,
That isolation.
yeah, and even people aren't even going to church anymore. So there's just literally no like everything that we had in the military. We had leadership, we had a lot of peers, we had juniors, we had the full community, the full camaraderie to its max extent. And I think at its extreme end, when you have nobody, if you're extremely lonely, it's about the equivalent of smoking like 5 or 6 cigarettes a day, like in terms of your health or something like that. And when you talked about it being I forget the terminology you use, but like we have the solution in front of us, just having all our buddies with us. It's like we really underestimate that value of just having a community of people, like whether it's just all the guys or if it's a church community, whatever it may be. When you actually have a tribe to be a part of, that is insanely. It's almost like a necessity, but we take it for granted.
Absolutely, and that's what I was talking about, isolation.
Yeah.
Because we isolate ourselves because we feel like either nobody's going to understand, we don't want to burden them with our problems,
Yes.
or something similar along those lines. So we end up isolating ourselves and we fall into our own narratives where we're spiraling. And now we're thinking 10 steps ahead, but reality's at step 1. But now we're so far into like this fake world that we've created for ourselves because we don't want to go out. And it gets harder for us each time to go out. Like when a traumatic incident happens in your life, whether it's a death, loss of job, something, the faster you get back on that horse, the easier it is going to be for you mentally. You're still going to struggle.
Yeah.
But the longer you take time off of going back to a daily routine, the harder it is to get back onto that routine, and the more lost you become.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have too much to add in terms of the community aspect, but I think we can agree, obviously, it's essential for that. Or what were you going to say?
It's okay.
Okay. So when